Years ago, as a little kid, I learned the value of things, possessions. I grew up in a small town in a middle-class family. This is my storage cellar, and it has the accumulations of about 35 going on 40 years of stored stuff. One day I met another kid on the sidewalk walking down Lincoln Drive, and he had something in his hand, and I asked him what it was, and he goes, "Fishing reel." And I said, "Well, where'd you get that?" And he said, "Alley hunting." Here's a wine rack that never got put together, still waiting for that to come into fruition. I said, "What's alley hunting?" And he said, "What, ain't you never been alley hunting before?" I once decided I was going to get involved in making things out of leather, and I went and bought all this leather. And I stopped doing the leather work, but I still have the leather. People throw stuff away all the time. Sometimes it's good stuff, and they throw it out in the alley with their garbage, and if you get there before the garbage man comes, you can take it. Pieces of pipe. There's... Oh, more golf clubs. I actually have more golf clubs here. I started doing a little alley hunting myself and started bringing things home, which wasn't real popular with my parents. Cigar box, it's a nice one. It's a wooden one, so, why wouldn't you want it? In 1970, I moved to Fairbanks, Alaska, and people reused everything because it was hard to get things. It's a remote place that back then, of course, certainly, it was very expensive to ship things in. So somebody's thrown out some old doors, or I have leftover wood from a project. You just know you're going to need it again sometime. Spending my 20s in Alaska instructed me about salvage and recycling. I was almost 30 when I moved to Bainbridge Island and ready to build a house. And I started collecting materials to do that. Most of these things were used things that other people didn't want anymore. I pulled up flooring. I wrecked a barn to use the materials in it. All of these things eventually did go into the house that I built. And here's my record collection. There's a whole bunch down there. There's a bunch in this box, and there's a bunch back over there. It became clear to me over the years that having to store things was a cost. Because if you salvage things, you have to find a place to put it. And when you find a place to put it, it has to be taken care of. If it's going to sit there for several years, you have to be able to keep it out of the rain and out of the weather in order for it to be useful when you want it. Well, that has a cost. This sensibility that I had developed in Alaska was useful there, but not so useful afterwards. Someday I'm going to use some of the wood in there to build myself a nice garage door. I hadn't lived in my new community of Bainbridge Island for very long before somebody introduced me to an event that was right up my alley. It was a kind of swap meet, but different from that. It was a kind of rummage sale, but much larger than any I'd ever seen before. And it was a charity event that involved a great deal of exchanging of goods. Over the years, I realized we're looking at a great illustration of the cycle of consumerism. We buy things we want, we use them, we possess them, and then we have to let them go. Here we could see virtually every kind of thing that anybody would want in their home laid out in this very concentrated space in such enormous quantity. I thought this is a great place to begin this conversation about how possessions shape our lives.
I describe it to my friends as the biggest yard sale in the world, and I don't think there's anything like this anywhere else that I've ever heard of. And when I say big to friends, they'll say, oh, and then I say, well, last year they raised $480,000, and then their eyes bulge out, and it's like, oh.
One friend's like, oh, it's like that other auction that we go to, and I said, absolutely not. This is like nothing you can ever imagine.
It's madness.
This is truly unique. I mean, for our tiny little island to have an event like this that raises the kind of money that it does for charity and for our community, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, we raised last year over $500,000 in 6 hours.
In all my Rotary years, I've never seen something like this. This is really, whoa. This has blown my mind.
The community comes together, donates all this stuff. The Rotary Club runs the auction, sells the items, supports the nonprofits here on the island, things like the Boy Scouts, the community centers, the swimming pools, and etc.
This auction itself is a unique event. A little over a week ago, this school campus was absolutely empty. There wasn't anything here. And in 8 days, these 1,600 people worked long, hard hours, and they transformed all of those donations into, I think, one of the great department stores in the world.
Thousands of volunteer hours to make this all work. People don't see how much work goes into sorting, cleaning, and displaying these items. It is amazing how many hours goes into putting this together.
This is the Mall of America of rummage sale. Look around. Oh my gosh. These people know how to recycle here and make money for a good cause. Pretty cool.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. I want to know how many people here today are the first time that you're going to participate in the Rotary auction. Raise your hands, please. My goodness, that's quite a lot.
I state your full name, do hereby agree. Very funny. Agree to uphold the glorious tradition of the Rotary Volunteer Auction.
Well, first of all, I just want to welcome all of you this evening. As Dave says, this is the 50th anniversary of the Rotary Auction. That means the very first auction began in 1960.
I got involved with Rotary Club, I think it was 1949 or 1950. So our first auction was 1960.
I was at the very first Rotary auction in 1960. My dad helped get that set up.
In those days, service clubs could raise money with raffle tickets, or women's clubs could have bake sales. But the Rotarians thought big. They picked the biggest spot on the island that they could have. They enlisted their associates in business to help donate funds. They picked a place with a large parking lot, and they enlisted the help of their families.
We had the husbands and wives and children and everyone who participated in making it go.
All the other kids that I went to school with were children of the businessmen along Winslow Way. So those are the people who went down to the Rotary auction. It was real small.
It had this family atmosphere that has been retained through the years. I mean, after 50 years, we still get this family sense about what needs to be done. Well, you can imagine the transition to all of this from the early beginning when we knew nothing about how to organize it and how to set it up. We literally would come maybe a few days before the auction time. There would be a huge mound of what some people think was garbage.
But after the first 2 or 3, we had a lot of knowledge how to do this.
You've got to give credit to the Rotarians. They know how to tweak it through the years and how to review the situation every auction, just how to make it better.
Of course, we had all this written down, so the guy who was going to do this year read the reports from last year.
Okay, the diagram is the layout of the school. It's a CAD drawing of the school. So we've got it broken into quadrants. This happens to be the red team's map.
Sometime in the 1990s, the auction grew extremely fast, and all of a sudden it just couldn't be handled by all the Rotarians, their friends, their families. Outside volunteers had to be asked to help.
And then it grew to the point where now it takes up inside the whole school, plus the whole parking lot. So it's a huge event now.
Now the Rotarians have to run this like they would a large business. They meet all year long. They have committee heads that are chosen a year in advance. They run it like a well-oiled machine.
You're here because you actually have been doing this long enough that you head up departments of your own. So I want to tell you how grateful Rotary is for your commitment.
This auction has been going and growing for 50 years, and it's an integral part of the community. In fact of the matter is, the auction is the biggest event of the year on Bainbridge Island.
There are auctions that are bigger, and there are auctions that make more money, but all of those are auctions that go on for more than 6 hours. In terms of auctions that go on for 6 hours, we are far and away the biggest auction of our type in the world. We certainly are in the Rotary Club.
So we live in Brisbane, which is in the state of Queensland in Australia.
I'm from Cologne, the E-Club, Cologne Rotary E-Club.
I'm Alexis Tugume. I'm from the Rotary Club of Kampala, Sese Islands.
We run an event, a similar kind of event, smaller, in Australia. So we didn't understand how a small community on an island, 23,000 people, could generate a yard sale in just over a week that would raise over $500,000. So at some point we said, we've got to go and see that.
For me, it's rather unbelievable and very, very new and extremely well organized. Yeah, there's a huge amount of logistics behind that.
This has blown my mind. It's good to see, the whole community coming over, supporting volunteers, doing this for free. Whoa, that is good. I wish you could have something like this in Uganda.
Well, people ask, what can we do to have the kind of auction and rummage sale that you all have now? It's a very difficult question to answer because it's not just about doing, it's about building a culture that a community supports.
If you want to have an auction like this, get started, but don't think it's going to be that successful until it's been around for a while. People get used to it and it becomes part of the community.
Being able to volunteer your time, your talents, and your services, and have the end results be so amazing. To be part of an organization that has turned trash into treasures and then turned around and done something wonderful for the community and us. The swimming pool, the library, the Medic One, the Commons, all of the big things that all of this does, it gives you a wonderful warm feeling to know that you've been part of it.
The entire proceeds from the very first Rotary auction were donated to the library to build a new building here on the corner of Madison Avenue and High School Road.
They're not getting compensated for it in any way, but like I say, they're getting satisfaction out of working for a common cause for the community.
It's all about community building, and I don't think there's been anything any greater than this as far as cultural glue, that helps hold us all together.
I pull up. The person that helps me unload the stuff is Lynn Norby, our city manager. And 8 hours later, Lynn and I are still unloading stuff. It's addictive. I unloaded, then I parked, I came back, I helped unload, then pretty soon I'm sorting screws, wires, wood, I couldn't leave. It was like, I can't leave, there's a car coming with more stuff. And every time I emptied a car or met somebody that was donating something, I made a new connection to somebody on the island. I loved working the curb.
I enjoy just networking with people. When you come here and volunteer here, God, you get a chance to spend some quality time with. There's people who take their vacations. This is how they spend their vacation, and they couldn't think of a better way to do it, than to meet with their friends.
It's almost like summer camp for adults. There's people that I get to see that I haven't seen for the whole year. I mean, time goes by so quickly, but we make connections and bonds, and so there's just a lot of camaraderie, and it's just fun. There's a lot of good energy here.
People feel like our family already. I mean, we've been here 5 days now, and I feel like we have known all of these people that we've met for years.
There's a lot of people we don't know, and this is the only time we see them, and then we never recognize them out in the real world because we wear our oldest clothes. I mean, we're really grubby.
It's almost like a high school reunion for this community too. I mean, there's this tremendous coming home that happens. You see people that you don't see.
I live in Minnesota, and I'm here visiting my daughter that has worked at this other years. And I think she insisted I come so I could work this week and go home the next week. I might come back next year.
I genuinely want to come back next year and every year.
It's like a beehive. Everybody's bustling around all the time, and especially these kids, a lot of young kids.
These little 10, 11, 12-year-olds start working the curb. They realize that they're awesome volunteers. They feel important. They are important. And they are the kids that are unloading the cars and walking the shopping carts to the different departments.
They like to come down into the gym because there's this ramp that goes down and you go, whee!
Yeah, we've met lots of people, and it's a whole lot of fun just seeing the weird stuff people bring in.
Those kids get hooked on working Rotary. It's the first safe place for them to have a job.
And I never worked at it before, but it's really fun.
I've been working Rotary Auction for years, actually followed my son Casey here. He started when he was a wee one and has earned a name for himself here as a really hard worker. So it's a time that our whole family now comes, and we work through the week, and it's addicting.
None of us in this room are Rotarians. We're not doing this because we are Rotarians. We're doing this because it's good for the community, and it's fun.
Some of these volunteers have been here 10, 15, maybe even more years than that. So asking them if they'd like to volunteer again next year is really pretty easy to do. I'm already talking to this year's department managers and trying to put together a management team for next year that's just as good as this year. And we're not asking everybody. We're not asking everybody.
You aren't, huh?
We're just asking
just the select few. How many managers are there?
Yeah, that's right. We've doubled the pay, and the
cool.
benefits have been increased as well.
More smiles.
That's right.
Less rain.
So what do you think? Do you think next year you could be a part of my team?
You know what? I would love to be.
From the very first auctions, people just discovered their own talents and kind of zeroed in on a department. And they stayed with that department for the next 30 years. They just didn't change. And I think you find the same thing happens today. Even the new volunteers find a place where they have a little bit of expertise, something they really enjoy, and every year they go back to the same department.
But when you get people that want to be here and helping other people, it's a lot more fun and a lot more interesting to interact with them.
It's almost like a little city sets up there, and you're the citizen in this brand new city, and there's all this goodwill because we're all between all of us, because we're here for this amazing thing, and we know that all this old stuff is going to be leveraged into concrete good action in the world.
And it's always fun because it's sort of like going through somebody else's garage and finding all the unique treasures in the bottom of a box.
What's this? What have we got? It didn't sell at somebody's garage sale.
His pants are kind of sagging too. They got pins in them, but
but he's the real howdy doody. So that's cool. Yeah, going down, come to the collectibles if you need a howdy doody.
But what I really enjoy, like in the book department, is to be like a detective, to see the stuff that comes in one box from one family, obviously. And sometimes it's very sad, too. There'll be a number of books on how to get along with your husband and better marriage and this and that, and the bottom book will be do-it-yourself divorce.
I think the generosity of the people who live on Bainbridge Island and beyond that donate to the auction, just in general, the generosity, they see the impact that it has in the community, I think, and they really realize that if they give, we want and care about the items that they're donating. And so we're going to take care of them and do the best that we can. But it's not, if it wasn't for the donations, we wouldn't be able to do this at all.
Not in bad shape. Usually the bellows are what goes first, but the bellows and that seem to be just fine. So I'm sure if somebody is an accordionist, they'd like this as a souvenir to hang on their wall.
A Tiffany & Company Paloma Picasso squiggle pin from the mid-'80s, which has a value of $350.
So what I have here is the world's finest HO Railroad by Markland. You know, if you know trains and you like trains, this is an incredible set, probably our most valuable item in the whole boutique.
It's a 75 R90/6 BMW motorcycle. It's a 900cc 5-speed, and with a little cleanup, you could drive it to Florida.
We've got 16 cars so far, which is as many as we've had in past years. We'll probably have vehicles that'll go from $50 or $100 up to maybe $15,000. You know, quite a range.
This is actually a handmade violin. It has nothing on it to identify who made it or when or where. It has mother of pearl on the tuning pegs, and it has a lovely tone. So much better than all the other violins that we got.
Come on in, but you got to be careful because there's a little bit of everything in your way.
I'm kind of one of those people that sort of accumulates stuff, and finding a way to get rid of all that stuff so it doesn't strangle me is always a challenge.
Mostly what I have to do is be as ruthless as I can and decide, you know, have I used it in the last decade? Yes. Keep it. No. We should toss it.
I have a hard time letting go. I have emotional attachment sometimes to things above and beyond their actual value.
The wheelchair, a lot of people ask me, oh, why do you have a wheelchair? Well, I got this at Rotary a couple years ago, and you know, the great thing about having it is when you're at Rotary, you can carry out all your stuff in it. You just put it right in the wheelchair, you just wheel it out. Well, I'm just trying to think for a second here. This is, okay, I might still have an insane use for that. Blocks for the kids, okay. Boots that no longer fit anyone that's alive. That, they've outgrown that. So funnel. I got multiple funnels. You never know when you're going to need another funnel, so I'll keep that. No, I'll probably keep the wheelchair. The wheelchair is good for being at Rotary and getting all your stuff out, but I think I'll keep it for right now. Vintage clothing. It's really kind of unique. It's a little short in the sleeves. This was a sophomore prom, or I was a sophomore and I believe I crashed a prom. Oh, I've got like 20 years of National Geographics. You know, finally got the whole list on CD.
You know, as we go on in life, you just sort of accumulate more and more stuff. And eventually you've got to figure out, you know, a methodology for dealing with it. You know, I have never done my own garage sale. I suppose I could, but it's just so much easier and more fun to be a part of the Rotary.
we just donated the contents of my mother-in-law's house. She's 94 years old, child of the Depression, so everything had its place and nothing was ever given away. No longer able to live independently. So, in preparation for selling your house, turning all this over to somebody who can use it. You know, some of the furniture that we donated here is going to probably have another 50 to 150 years life. My parents were, as Janice's mother, were children of the Depression era, and that generation were just hoarders, I think. And everybody that I've known growing up in that era is just, you know, they like their stuff because maybe they went through a period where they had no stuff.
We're good. Perfect.
The kids grew up eating at the table, but you know, it was too big of a table for their apartments now, and you know, it's too big for the local places, you know, like Bargain Boutique, the children's. You know, they just don't have the space for it. But 4th of July, Rotary, what more could be perfect?
Let me tell them where to go. We have lived on Bainbridge Island for 21 years, and I'm one of these people that love my stuff if I'm emotionally attached to it, and it has memories. That's the problem. When you're a parent, everything you have bears those memories. My son is a very pragmatic kind of person. So we have this whole storage unit in this beautiful building down here that was full to the rafters. And he got in there with me. He goes, "Mom, we have got to get rid of this, you know." And we just started pulling stuff out there. And when I realized that they really don't want any of it and it's just getting old, that it was time to call Rotary. I have all the photos of the wonderful times we had together, but I don't necessarily need the stuff. And it'll be passed on and repurposed, and it'll go to other families. For me, it's bittersweet. It's kind of sad. It really is. Even though I realize the total necessity of having to get rid of all this stuff, and there's no point in keeping it any longer. But it's still, you know, it tugs at the heartstrings.
Everything is sentimental to her, so.
When you're a parent, maybe you won't. We'll see.
We just have so much stuff, so it's good to get it out of here. Ever since I have gone to school, I've been kind of training myself to be efficient in every department that I'm in. How to keep the bare minimum of stuff is more of what I'm thinking about.
Tell me about your rule, the Rotary rule.
It's not a very good rule. It's like 10 years you haven't touched it and all you've done is move it around. It's time to pass it on.
It's a great rule.
This is a little Craftsman that I bought, but this is from probably the 50s. You have to have room, and then you collect stuff because you're thinking of a project or something to do. This is another drill press from ancient times. And it also, somebody gave it to me because they didn't know what to do with it. Then you collect this stuff, you got to keep it from deteriorating while you're waiting for something to happen. Here's another drill press. This is from World War II. There's a lot of unfinished projects, but then after a certain time, like maybe somebody comes by and they could use it. So then you move on to the next thing.
I would just so much rather find something and make it mine rather than buy something in a store that's already done. All around our house you'll find things that I've gotten at different secondhand stores or at the Rotary auction, and I just love making something with nothing. Isn't that just gorgeous? And I love to imagine who had this in their house and what kind of a fancy house it was in, and what kind of fancy people and the clothing they wore and the parties they had. I love to imagine that.
I do really love certain
material things, especially if they have a history and a story that I can tell. Now that we have children that are making their own homes, I know that that's part of my relationship with things is I'm going to pass this on, and it's going to have meaning because of this story that's connected to it.
When I was little, I had this, like Buzz Lightyear doll I loved. I really, really did. It really meant a lot to me, and I ended up, I got older, I didn't play with him, so I ended up donating him. I hope that, someone else, some other little boy or little girl, I get to go and enjoy that. It's that unspoken legacy of a possession that goes through multiple kids, so, lots of kids get good memories with them.
I have a workshop, I collect stuff. Sometimes I get really mad when the shop is not organized, and getting rid of stuff is very liberating. If someone else can use it, you don't want to throw it away, you want to give it to somebody, but I'd like to not have it.
What I love about the Rotary auction is that I'm not going out and buying something new, that people are using things. I hate to throw things in the trash, and yet I don't like clutter either, so the thought that somebody, that we're using these things and really wearing them out appeals to my sense of wanting the world to be a more efficient place, less junk, less waste.
How's it going?
It's going well. How you doing today?
I'm good.
What do you got for us?
I got everything from kids stuff to computers.
So computers are tough for us to sell, so we'll need a $10 donation for the computer equipment, please.
Hi.
I guess it turns out to be a series of decisions. If somebody drives up with a vehicle, we meet them at the gate, and we look in and we see what they have, and we say, oh yes, we're not taking these things.
And we're looking for certain items that typically don't sell well or that are difficult to get rid of. And so we ask for a donation for those items, and those items may include anything from a sofa bed to a computer monitor.
But there are two types of things we accept. We accept gays. Those are good articles yearning to be sold. And we also accept crap. That's can't resell at any price.
They drive down to the curb. We have somebody at the curb, helps them to take the stuff off out of the vehicle, put it on the table.
There's a couple of gems in here though.
So one decision is, do we take it? Second decision, where does it go?
It's separated there into departments, so then we have runners and they bring it in by the grocery cart load.
Stuff that gets on the table, there's another decision. Okay, where does it go from the table? And all of the departments have their own little staging areas where we put stuff. So does this go to computers? Does this go to the department we call lenses? Does this go to household items? Does this go, is this a children's thing? Is this a book? So all of those decisions are made, goes to the staging area.
And we have a staging area that everything gets dumped. And we literally have 5 people that just stay right there, and they start dispersing to different areas throughout the room here.
So I built this rig so that I could sort 21 sizes at a time. It's incredibly over-engineered. I've got this little chart that shows the different sizes and where they go in the rack and how far apart the shelves need to be. I have way too much free time on my hands. I make sure that every one is a mason jar. We don't take any mayonnaise jars. I make sure that the rim has no flaws in it. And then the really over-engineered part is the tying up the rings. And then I tie them up, and this little shaft has a blade built into it, so I cut it and drop it in there and start over. Now that's over-engineered. That's just silly, but we have fun.
I've got lots of teenagers and lots of older adults, and they work together. So the teenager said, "What's this?" And then they explain, and then the adult person picks up the hair care product and says, "What's this?"
We'll typically take in maybe 400 to 500 bicycles donated through the week. We'll have a team of people back there, boys and girls and some adults, that will pressure wash those bikes, do some minor repairs, get them all spiffed up, and then we'll sell those bikes.
Right here? That's why. Here. Look at that.
We have to clean,
test and refurbish each of the lamps that we have here.
We get boxes and boxes of items, and you pull out the pile of spaghetti wires, find the 4 or 5 good ones, recycle the rest.
We have a lot of helpers that come in and do the tuning and the stringing and the cleaning, and it's just a real effort by a lot of people.
So we spend a great deal of time getting ready for the sale by doing what I'm doing right now, which is taking a mass of things and untangling it in hopes that we will find that treasure.
I think it's the treasure hunt for sure, to find the treasure. That's innate in all of us. We beachcomb. We walk down the beach looking for the perfect shell or rock to take home.
I got these boots in my first Rotary auction, and I found them underneath the clothing tables, which is total mayhem, and they just appeared like an agate on the beach or something. I reached in and they were cool boots, and they were my size, and it felt like spiritual property, like these are my boots forever. Genuine firefighter boots, steel toe, wool interior, built for moi.
Well, this is an Arthur Ashe Comp 2, and I owned this racket when I was in college. And over the years, got misplaced, lost it, and here it is, and it's in very good conditions. And it's exactly my grip size, too. So this is awesome. Maybe this is the one that I lost years ago, I'm not sure. But anyway, I've got it now.
You find your treasure. That's basically is a game of finding your treasure, no matter what it is, whatever junk it is your treasure.
Hey, I got the frying pan. Check it out. I have a big one and a little one. This one goes right in the middle.
So I have here an item which my father brought home from the Rotary auction, the very first one in 1960. And it's the bust of Beethoven. And Beethoven was at school with me for many years. And the kids would come in and go, "Well, who's that?" And I said, "Well, I'm so glad you asked."
All right, so this is what I got at the Rotary auction. And at the time, I didn't know certainly what it was. It was just quite beautiful. It turns out it's called a flutina, and they come from France, and they were made in the 1830s. And it turns out that it is the precursor to the accordion.
We built this little house at the beach so the kids would have a place to congregate. But we needed all the parts for our little house. We needed the bathroom parts, the shower, the sink, the toilet. We needed the sink in the kitchen. We needed windows, we needed a door. Every one of those pieces came from the Rotary auction, and so somehow we fit them into the little house.
But practically all of these metal brackets have came from Rotary. You go to buy this, it's like $30. And if they didn't have the Rotary, this would end up in the metal bin, never to be seen again. So all this stuff is all Rotary. Building materials, great selection.
Get that couch out of the way. Get that couch out of the way. Come on, move that. I'm going.
All right, 45 seconds, we're going to start an auction. Do I have more than one bidder on this boat? Just tell me if you do, if y'all are going to be bidding. So we are going to do a live auction.
We're up to 290. Next would be 310. 310.
Okay, 305, right here 310, 310. 310, 310, right here 315.
Anybody for 400, 400. Anybody for 425.
725, 725, 725. Who's going to give me the 750, 750, 750, 750, 750? I can't talk that fast anymore.
Now 3,200, 3,200, now 3,300, 3,300, now 3,400.
13.4.
Come on, we're going. Let's go for your top dollar. Let's outbid that other person.
13.8.
13.8. We're at 13.8. Anybody got to go up from 13.8 on the bug?
Jim, you need a new page.
We're gonna frame this after.
We're at 13.8 on the yellow Volkswagen convertible.
You got it. You did good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Carson. You got it. 13.8.
13.8.
Come on over here.
Thank you very much.
You know, it's all emotions. Beautiful day. It's gorgeous. You gotta have a car like this. That's all.
He loves being outside and climbing and being rough, and we're going to make him a camping bedroom. And this lovely horse would be perfect in his rustic camping room. It was $20, I would have wanted it, and I would have like, oh, and then I would have walked away and missed it. But this will, we plan on having many more children, and so this will get love.
Got the horns. Where's it going? What are you gonna do? I don't know. It'll go with the bearskin rug I got earlier.
I bought it just to carry stereo stuff to my car. Now I'm gonna go back and redonate it and they can sell it again.
Luke's been building since he was born. And the day that he went to the Rotary auction, he was 13, and about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he saw this old engine and he just had to have it.
We'll go look at it. It's an electric motor that goes through a gear reducer that turns a cable winch. And it has this foot switch to attach this clamp to, but we just extended that, put the drive shaft on. This part sits in the fire pit, and then it just rotisseries whatever you're cooking. And we've done chickens, turkeys, pork shoulders, whole pigs,
Steer haunches, cow
and
haunches.
a cow
Oh man, that was
hind
huge.
quarter was the last thing. You use your imagination, you know. I mean, and when you get a couple people together, whether it's my son or a friend or something, you kind of go like, hey, if we did this and did that, wouldn't that be funny?
I'm not allowed to buy projects here because I already have enough projects.
The Bainbridge Island Rotary Auction and Rummage Sale brings together several critical ingredients. First, the donors, who have things they want to give away or even need to get rid of. Then second, the shoppers, who are seeking bargains and treasures, and they like the idea of acquiring used but still useful stuff. And third, a dedicated service organization capable of mobilizing hundreds of volunteers. When these three agents are combined, under the influence of years of refined expertise, it causes something like a chemical reaction in which a great deal of energy is produced, including a colorful cultural spectacle full of goodwill, the engagement of a nearly unequaled volunteer commitment, the raising of a great deal of money that's used to fund countless public projects from local to international, and finally, the creation of an opportunity to observe the psychology of attachment and release of the physical objects that shape our existence and the impact they have on our lives.
Strategy is key at the Rotary. My strategy is to come to the preview. You got to scope out all the rooms, figure out what you want, if there is a magic object that you're running for. And the next morning, get here super early, park, get in line, get to the front of the line, and then as soon as the line drops, you got to make a beeline for whatever you want.
Last year we biked here at like 4 in the morning, and there were people like sleeping there. They weren't even awake yet.
If you get here early, you can be in the front of the line. Which is pretty much what they do is they blow this whistle and then everybody just sort of races for what they want.
Why is
and
it so important to be fun?
It's not that important. It's just fun to try to get in the front.
It looks like everyone's charging for free land or something. They're coming crashing off the hill at 8 o'clock, and it just goes nuts after that for 2 hours. It's the craziest thing you've ever seen in your life.
And remind you that when the tape drops, you're going to have a horde of hundreds and hundreds of people coming this way. So make sure that you are safe as well.
You're going to want to move out of the doorway so you don't get trampled. Be safe.
And what about now? You're going to tell us what you're here for?
I'm here to block for my wife from those people right there.
Oh. He's running interference for his wife.
Our very first Rotary experience was the preview on Friday night. There were 8 wheelbarrows. And we checked it out Friday night, and they said, and you have to get there early. So we got there early, and we have our cups of coffee, and we're staying in a big group of people.
Good morning, and welcome to the 56th Annual Bainbridge Island Auction and Rummage Sale.
My partner is Claudette Boudreau, and she's there with me. Daughter couldn't be, she's probably still in a stroller at that point. Have our cups of coffee, they sing. Everybody's really friendly, everybody knows each other, it's laid back, I still have my coffee, I've got the baby. Then I swear they shot a gun and everybody ran. It felt like a marathon, like, go. And people ran. Claudette starts running as fast as everyone else. She gets to the wheelbarrows. Now, wheelbarrows are a personal thing. You've got to like feel the handles and see if it rolls, if it's stable. So she gets to the first wheelbarrow and she checks it out. She puts it down, and before she could reach the second wheelbarrow, the first wheelbarrow was gone, and all the other 7 wheelbarrows were gone. And 10 minutes later, she came back to us. I didn't get anything. I didn't get a wheelbarrow. I didn't get anything.
That energy of running it and getting it, and that's our sense of materialism that is just so part of our culture. You know, it was like that anxiety of like, will I get there in time? Am I going to get what I want? Is it going to be there?
So I raced in there the next morning and grabbed that sewing machine, and I turned around, and you know how it always is at the Rotary auction, someone else grabbed it when I was trying to pay for it. So it was one of those friendly tug-of-wars.
We lost our minds. Literally, we have no truck. We bought a barbecue grill, we bought a lawnmower, we bought 2 weed eaters, we bought a outdoor patio table, we bought a wine refrigerator. We've been looking for an air hockey table forever. Yeah, we just have never wanted to plunk out a few $100s for an air hockey table, but for $20, we'll find a way to get it home.
I'm waiting for the auction to end. I'm told a lot of stuff remains after the auction, which is considered junk. And what is considered junk here may not be junk where I come from.
Today we have to get everything out of the building before the end of the day, before we leave. And then tomorrow we take everything that's at the curb and we put them in the crushers and the other containers that go out. So hopefully most of this will be gone to charities around the area.
It used to be that at the end of the sale, it all just went into a big dumpster, which was horrifying for everybody who had worked here and cleaned it and tested it and sorted it. And now we have a registration process every year where this year 64 different charities have signed up to help.
Well, the harvesting is we don't want any of the items to go to the dump. We don't want them to be thrown away. We want bodies and we want people to be able to use these items. And so we work diligently and we work hard to make sure that nothing goes to the dump.
We've got a bunch of different volunteers coming in. We've got all our post-sale harvesters come, the nonprofits who come and select unsold materials. This year we're working with Value Village. They'll be taking all the leftover textiles, clothing. I'm already working with my church on materials for the refugee resettlement program.
I'm the pastor at Bethany Lutheran Church, and so we have about 12 to 15 people coming to do gleaning here at the Rotary auction in order to help resettle refugee families. So last year we got about enough for about 9 households, complete households. So these households are all ready to go when people move to our area, and they can settle right in. So we're hoping to do the same this year.
I'm harvesting. Yes. Oh, just games for the kids over the summer, keeping them busy, learning games. I'm into learning games for them, no wasting time. Well, you know, you can have fun and learn at the same time.
And I'm here for Eastside Baby Corner. It's an organization in Bremerton that helps families in Kitsap County that are underprivileged.
Today, my daughter was harvesting for a nonprofit called the Freedom Project to help people who are incarcerated get books to read and so on and so forth. And I've been harvesting for my old grade school.
We actually have 2 equine rescuers this year. So they'll be taking a lot of the horse tack and using it for their charities. And then also we often have the Humane Society. We have paws that come through. We actually have a dog rescuer. She's in Portland. And they come and take a lot of the crates, the dog beddings, the bowls, just anything that can potentially be used again.
So New Beginnings Closet is a place where people in the community can come and they can get clothing free for their children. And we have a special closet for foster children. Anything that we can't use, we recycle back out into the community for free. We recycle to Kitsap Rescue Mission, and we recycle to Baby Corner.
And we bring all these toys to the different schools, the poor schools in Guatemala. You know, to different towns, and we go to the rural areas, places where they don't even have shoes. They don't have shoes, so nevertheless, they don't have toys. So they always tell me, are you coming to the auction to bring us toys? I say, yes, I will. If you only will see the eyes of these little kids when they're receiving these toys, they get so happy, you know, so happy.
This is the harvesting team.
Team
Vargas. Team Vargas. Team Vargas.
Team Harvest.
Last year we ended up sending, I think it was 35 computers to Uganda. And this year we're going to be sending some monitors, we're going to be sending a few other items that they need. So we're hopeful for that. It's a great way of getting rid of them because really a lot of these computers that are old technology in the United States aren't necessarily old technology in the rest of the world.
My son and I were talking about how there's probably enough buttons in the world that would never need to manufacture another button, but we can't collect the buttons and get them back to where they're needed to attach them to the new garments. And so we just keep making more buttons. Millions and millions of buttons. And then we throw them in the trash and landfill them and make more.
Well, recycling on this scale is always complicated. So what we're trying to do is make it simple and easy, but it also has to have some speed to it.
We are a disposable society. There are so many things that get thrown away that are still usable or shipped overseas or to other places.
And since we started the Green Team, this recycling effort, we've cut the disposal bill in half.
We're doing pretty good. I'm hoping that we can still divert about a ton of material from the landfill.
One Green Planet was started 3 years ago. We allow people to come in, drop the stuff off, whether it be a washer, dryer, toaster, blender, refrigerator, freezer, air conditioning unit, electric toothbrush, it doesn't matter. We take it, we break it down, separate the plastic from the hardware, from the boards, and everything gets recycled that way.
The garbage guys can tell us how many tons they are charging us for. We know exactly, because we pay for it, and we pay for it. And it's always been the biggest expense we've had here. This isn't like one can of garbage that you have at your home. This is tons of garbage. And to kind of get your mind around that gives you a little bit better idea of how much trash we as citizens actually handle, because we bought it in the first place. We bought the packaging. We had to have something. We needed something. And then it ends up here.
I think that our experience there, because there's so much stuff all in one place for a short period of time, it illuminates our relationship with stuff and the abundance of stuff that we all have, sort of the wealth of our material culture that we're all swimming in.
Look at the size of it. Look at the scope. Look at the array of the tools and toys of every possible shape and form. And just to sit back and look and say, wow, what are we doing?
I suspect that the Rotary auction on Bainbridge Island is reflective of society as a whole. We buy more stuff than we need and we throw it away when it wears out.
We live in a society that tells us to buy, and so we do it. You know, sometimes it's pretty mindless.
Yeah, there are chemicals in the body that are released when we are seeking pleasure and then when that pleasure has been satisfied. It's very biological and it's completely innate in us. We can't avoid it. It just happens. It's a very powerful driver. It's almost, without being aware of it, you kind of can't resist it.
I work as a television producer, and most recently I've been working on a show for A&E network called Hoarders. I do sort of walk around here and I have to stop myself and think, because I want to buy everything. And I have to stop myself and think, no, I don't want to be, I don't want to be on my own show.
What is really cool here is the Rotarians over the years have figured out how to take that compulsion that we have in our society and translate it into some dollars to do good things with those dollars.
It's like, in a way, we're a toss-away society, but here we're tossing to each other, so we're playing catch with our stuff. And it's beautiful. Instead of making trash, we're really swapping around and making sure we can all use the things that other people have no use for. It's awesome.
That desire to connect, that desire to give, that desire to give back, that desire to share, that desire to be part of a community, and the willingness to do those things, that exists everywhere in the world.
This money goes for really good causes. People donate just freely. So much time. It's a time of true community where people come together and connect and support each other.
So it was a combination of necessities and fun. It's kind of like, well, here's some things I'd kind of like, but I wouldn't go out and buy them new. But if I could get them for next to nothing, sure, that'd be fun. And it also helps me with my concern about the environment, because I always feel like the first person who buys something, they're the ones that acquire all the ecological karma, and that then it doesn't accrue to me. And I'm not really sure I can defend that, but that's.
Most likely, a lot of these things would be gone in the dump if they didn't bring them here.
Returning our baby into a landfill or something.
Yeah, and then.
But instead, they get to be used for a while.
It actually
will be sold here. Okay.
Like the whole idea that one man's trash is another man's treasure or something.
I forgot that quote.
I can still remember the raised voices of my parents coming from the basement where they were going through the family storage. Get rid of this. We'll never use this again. How can you say that? We just used it this summer. My dad, the enforcer, he just wanted to have a ship-shape house. My mother, the preserver, she just wanted to make sure everybody had enough. They both grew up in poor families during the Great Depression and didn't want to waste anything, but they could never agree on what to keep and what to throw out. My parents were thoughtful people and good citizens. But 50 years ago, we didn't think much about what happened to the things we threw away. We're better about that now, though not as good as we need to be. And it's good to have a reminder at least once a year of just how much stuff there really is out there and what happens to it when we get rid of it. And the ever-constant question will have increasingly important repercussions. Which is trash? And which is treasure? patriotic. Golly.
Look at this nice vent back here. And the buttons are covered, fabric covered. Look at that.